am audible, is actually a capacity. And and this quote very well fits to our honorable guest today, Mr. Ram Kumar Chandrasekaran. Mr. Ram is a renowned alumnus of IIM Indore batch of 2012 and has been associated with the IT industry for over 14 years. He started as a developer role in the sector, and these 14 years he was able to extend on his career to and become a great leader within the industry. He has a techno-managerial blend and has spearheaded teams in software development and software delivery, and is currently responsible for several growth functions within the current organization, such as learning and pre-sales. Sir, we are extremely delighted to have you amongst us. Request you to shower your valuable insights and knowledge and empower us, the budding MBAs of XLRI Jamshedpur, to augment our career prospects, accent on a career, and reach the zenith of our career ladder to transform the society into a better place and for the greater good of humanity. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you.
Thanks, Utkarsh. Thanks for that wonderful introduction. I think you've kind of set the bar and expectations quite high. So let's see how much I can do justice to it. So first of all, I would like to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity to interact with all of you. I look at this as more of a mutual learning opportunity where I thought I could share some of my learnings that I have had over these years, and then maybe hope that some of it might be helpful to some of you, and at the same time maybe through these interactions learn from some all of you as well, so that I can take away something from today's session. So with that, I would like to get into today's topic that I thought I will share, which is about how do you make your transitions to a managerial role at a new workplace successful. I think transitions are probably nothing new to all of you. All of you have made a lot of successful transitions in the past, which is one of the reasons why all of you are here where you are currently doing your executive PGDM. All of you have transitioned to a workplace, maybe from your undergraduation, and then after that you have done another successful transition again to academic world, and now all of you are looking at making one more transition, maybe in a few years or in about a year, back to the workplace, but maybe in a slightly different role. But I just thought, why not talk about at least some of these, because transition points are inherently potential points of failure. Those are points where if they are not successfully navigated through, it can potentially lead to failure. But it is not all doom and gloom. With a bit of preparation and with some amount of additional knowledge of how to navigate those transitions, the odds of making those transitions successful dramatically can increase. It is not going to be very difficult. You just need to know a few things so that you're able to make the next transition, again, one more successful transition in your career journey. So that's why I thought I'll share some of my learnings in making some transitions and share them with all of you. Right? So why do you think this transition is going to be slightly different? Right? So that is because once you move to your managerial position, you're not going to be making a whole lot of decisions between right and wrong or between good and bad. In a lot of situations, you will be dealing with having to choose between multiple right options or multiple equally good options, right? So in those cases, that's where the decision making becomes a lot more difficult, or it can be tricky, because again, and there are no right or wrong options, or there are no right or wrong choices that you make, just that certain choices or certain decisions might make your path to success a little bit more easier. Again, all of you must already be knowing that the path to success is not a straight or a linear line. There are always many paths to success, right? Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter, but eventually all options would eventually lead to success. And I'm sure all of you would be successful, whatever choices you make, even though you stand at crossroads between having to choose between multiple right or equally enticing options. Right. So in this presentation, I'll probably talk about maybe one such perspective. Again, I'm not going to say this is the only perspective or this is probably the only way to make decisions. It is just my take or my idea or my approach that I have been taking or I've seen others take, where such choices have led them to a slightly easier path towards success. Okay. So that's how today's topic is going to be about, or today's topic I'm going to talk about, where I'll present you with maybe a few equally good options, and we'll see how do we now choose between those options? So we will start off, I'll structure the presentation into multiple parts. So I'll talk about developing the right mindsets first, and then we'll move on to other sections. Now, why am I starting with mindsets? Because in a lot of cases, what you do or the choices you make, a lot of it will be driven by the mindsets that you develop. So that's where it is important to develop the right mindsets, so that those mindsets, if you get this right, then the rest of the decisions or actions will more or less flow seamlessly for you or will be more obvious to you. Right? So that's the importance of focusing on developing the right mindsets. So before we proceed, let me probably post a small poll where I'll present you with a hypothetical scenario. Right? Before I get into the topic, I'll open up this poll where there's a hypothetical scenario. So to answer this, you can go to menti.com and then you can enter this code. Okay. So the scenario is, say, assume you have a team member who is unhappy with maybe certain policy of the company. And then you sympathize, you understand the context of that employee. Then you make some attempts to try and get a waiver for him or her. And you end up with a situation where your managers end up rejecting a request for a waiver for the employee for whatever some policy that is affecting the employee. And then you're trying to make it easier or better for that person. But eventually the policy still stands and there can be no exceptions made. Now you need to communicate this to your team member who is probably already a bit unhappy with the current situation or the policy that is affecting him or her. Now there are probably about three ways or three options that I have shown here. One is you emphasize on transparency. You explain that what you did, what have you done in order to try and help the person. And then you explain transparently that the waiver was rejected by your managers. The next option is, so you sympathize with the team member, and then you also say you don't agree with the person, you don't agree with the decision, but you express that you're helpless, and then the policy would still apply to him. The next option is you explain to the team member why a waiver isn't possible and what are the reasons why the policy exists, and then what are the issues that associated with trying to provide a waiver for that person. So these are the options. Now, how would you choose? Hope you are able to see the code to be used, or is it hidden?
It's visible, sir.
It's visible. Okay. Right. So I see that majority of you are choosing the third option. So anybody would like to share your thoughts on why you chose the third option? Anybody would like to share?
I think we are getting responses in the chat.
Okay.
Survey says that it's good to be direct and clear, and it helps in solving the issue rather than fake empathy.
Okay, great.
Sir, I believe that your third option is correct because third option basically Yeah, third option is correct because the third option basically, is more elaborate and explanative. It gives us more insight about, the reasons, and it also tries to, tell the other person the reason why it is done, so that, there are no doubts left in the mind.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's probably look at the options. So the first option essentially diminishes your role, or you're just playing a role of relaying information between your manager and the team member. You're not playing an active role in managing the situation. That's the problem with the first option. The second option is toxic. It creates mistrust in the minds of the team members, wherein you are probably saying that you don't agree with the policy, but at the same time, you're also showing a sense of helplessness. And at the same time, you're not agreeing with it, but you're still asking the person to follow something. So that again causes mistrust, or it weakens the bond between the team member and the company. And we are actively adding to the toxicity by taking this approach. So the third option is like playing a parent's role. So as a parent, if you have a child who's asking for something, it's not that always you keep saying yes to everything. At times you have to say no, but you also explain the reasons and you help them understand why certain things cannot be done. Right. So at the same time, as some of you rightly mentioned, it develops an environment of trust. It also ensures that you and the management are not different, right? You're not just playing an us versus them kind of a game, but rather that's one of the first things that is important to develop as a manager, which is the mindset that you act and make decisions on behalf of the owners of the organization. You develop an owner's mindset. So in the third option is where you are exhibiting an owner's mindset. You're not washing off hands of your responsibility. You're not dissociating yourself from the policy and its implementation, but rather you're actively helping people understand the need for the policy. And at the same time, you're also ensuring that people understand the need and they respect that, even though it may not be something that it is favorable for them currently, but they still understand why it exists and why it is important to have a certain policy in place. So that's where it is important to understand that you're being hired as a manager to act and make decisions on behalf of the management and the owners. So we cannot, as a manager, play a fringe role or a peripheral role wherein we stay on the periphery and then we let things happen. We are hired because the owners or those few people who manage or own the company cannot be at every place and cannot be making all the necessary actions in order to run the company. So as managers, we are hired so that we represent them and we act on behalf of them. Right. So that's where it is important for us to be able to do that efficiently or successfully. It is important to develop that owner's mindset. So the question or the approach to handling the situation is, if I own this company and I'm in this situation and I'm dealing with this current situation, then how would I handle it? If we think about that from an owner's mindset, then a lot of options of what to do or how to handle the situation becomes a lot more clearer to us. So the first thing to develop is developing an owner's mindset, wherein we own the company and we are the owners. So in those cases, how do we make the situation better for everybody? We are able to continue working together and at the same time ensure that the company is successful, the employees are successful, and everybody is successful. So that is the first step. Another part of developing an owner's mindset would also be another scenario. Let's again try to look at this scenario. So there's again one more example to help us understand an owner's mindset. So assume you are interacting, you're the primary liaison for our customer for a project. And then your company's finance team manages the billing for the customer, and the customer has some queries or concerns on the latest invoice that has been sent to the customer. And you being almost everyday contact with the customer is bringing about that concern to your notice, right? Again, there are multiple ways you can handle it, because finance department, finance team is separate, and you're not totally aware of a lot of the nuances of billing. You provide the contact details of the finance team to the customer, and you request them to discuss it with the finance team. Then the next one is you capture the queries, pass them along to the finance team, but you also set up a meeting with the finance team and the customer, and you join the call and you ensure that the issue is resolved to satisfaction. Third option is you capture the queries and then you pass it on to the finance team and ask the finance team to work directly with the customer. Okay. So the second option seems to be quite popular. Any thoughts or reasons why you chose that option?
I personally feel that with the second option, one can actually take control of that situation when something goes wrong. If he's the primary license, then he should be there during that discussion.
So along with that, I think company should company should have a single point of contact for the customers. They cannot really ask them to move around with different personnels. So that way.
Right, great. A lot of you hit the nail on the head. So again, it's an extension of developing that owner's mindset. Say if it's your own home, and then say somebody within your house, within your household, any of your parents or siblings have an issue with, say, maybe one of the service providers. In that case, would you just pass on the contact details and ask them to fight it out? Not really, right? We represent them, we get into a call with them, and we help them resolve the issue, because we take ownership of that situation and we act on behalf of the affected people. So the same thing is also applicable once we are in a managerial position, wherein again, we do not pass the buck around. It can be quite frustrating if it is a common thing, right? Say where if you are having any sort of grievance, and if you are endlessly made to run around from post to pillar, from one team to another team in order to get your issue resolved, then in that case, it doesn't give you a great experience, right? So that's where if you're the owner and say if you are interacting with one of your key customers and the customer has an issue, if you want to retain that customer, then in that case, you would ensure that the issue is resolved to the satisfaction of the customer, right? And you take ownership of it, and you not just pass the customer around to multiple departments within the company. So that is another part of developing an owner's mindset, wherein you do not pass the buck around, but you take active role or active responsibility in owning the situation, owning every situation, and ensuring that any issue or any problems are resolved to satisfaction. The next part of developing an owner's mindset is also to think about how do we get more done with less, because every company, every situation, the environment, business environment is such that there is always competitive pressure where somebody else is able to offer something that we offer at a much better rate, or with maybe more features or more capabilities or more for the customer. So essentially what you're doing is you're just increasing the output or you're reducing the input. Again, few ways to do that would be you can increase the output either through creative solutions or through problem solving or adopting newer technologies or infusing technology so that things get done better, or you reduce input by reducing waste, right? So at all times, at every point or every situation in our job, it is important. In a lot of cases, we do not get work assignments, or we are not asked to do or bring about improvements. As a manager, it's important to understand that it is constantly important. It is always important to continue to get more done with less. And in a lot of situations, we might also be asked to say, do a lot of things that probably might not be, say, a direct fit or a direct responsibility of the job description. Whereas it's important to understand that in a lot of cases, we first take on the responsibilities, we do more, and then the position for that responsibility or a promotion or a raise follows, rather than the other way around, where we get a position, we get a responsibility, and then we start performing the actions or expectations from that position. So that's why if there are situations where there was a need to do something more, something beyond what is our primary responsibility, it's important to develop the mindset to take it in stride and to ensure that we do it, so that overall we start taking on additional responsibilities and we prove our worth that we are able to take on larger role or larger responsibilities within the organization. And another thing to also develop as part of owner's mindset is always ensuring that we perform to the fullest potential. It is never sufficient to do just good enough, where you're just doing the bare minimum required for the job or that position and just being done with it. That again does not tie in with having an owner's mindset. It's important at all times to ensure that we perform to our fullest potential and we give more and we do not hold back. So that is what differentiates A players from just others who are just passing their time around within the company. And the moment we start exhibiting an owner's mindset, then the rest of additional responsibilities, growth, everything else within the organization follows. So that is one of the key things to develop as part of making the transition. It's important to understand that we represent the owners, we represent the management team. We are not different. And at all points, think like an owner of the company. If we are the owner and this is the situation that we are dealing with, how would we do it? That makes a lot of things clearer and easier for us on what choices to make. Okay. The next part of developing a mindset is the focus on solutions and not on problems. A quick poll. So you are given something quite challenging. You are given an ask that is quite challenging, something the likes of which has not been done within the company forever, and say it is not even an incremental change. It's overall say maybe a 10x or a 20x improvement. That is something that you have been asked of you. Again, how would you handle that situation? So one option is ask for a bit of time, take a step back, identify the changes or actions that are required to achieve that, list down the help that you need and come up with a plan and run the plan by your manager on how you intend to achieve that outcome. Next is do not give false hopes. Comprehensively identify why something cannot be done and present the findings calmly in a follow-on discussion. The next one is flip the question around and ask them what they would do if the same thing has to be achieved. All right. So first option seems to be popular, followed by the second one. So any thoughts? Anybody who chose first option, anybody who chose second option, reasons why you chose the option? Anybody would like to share your thought?
So one of the, I mean, I chose the first option. So one of the reason I chose it is, first of all, we should be telling, I mean, the company wants to know how it can be done. So I mean, we should not be telling why it can't be done. Number two is they have assigned you this task. So you cannot really go at them and ask that, how would you do it? So that's the, I mean, that's the point.
Great thoughts. Right. So as Anuj rightly mentioned, there are a lot of people who can identify problems or identify and call out why something cannot be done. Whereas as managers, we are hired mainly for problem solving skills, right? And our ability to getting things done and making things happen. In all situations, many situations, we will be dealing with a lot of constraints. Constraints are the reality. It is up to us how to make things happen, problem solve, figure out options, figure out alternatives, identify how something can be done, and then ensuring that that happens. So this is one of the quotes that stuck with me from one of the trainings that I attended early on in my managerial career. So the way it happened was, so the trainer asked us to list down what were some of the things that we did not manage to do, which we wanted to do originally in the past year, and then what were some of the things that we were unable to do. Right. So all of us kind of wrote down, I too wrote down a few things that I always wanted to do, but I did not manage to do it in the past year. Then the trainer asked me to write down against each thing that was not done, the reasons why I was not able to do it. Right? Again, I thought about the reasons why I did not do it, reflected back on the past year, how did it go, and what were the reasons why I did not achieve those goals that I originally set for myself. And then once that was done, the trainer just opened up one slide and it had just this statement. And since that day, this quote has stuck with me, that whatever I had written against each of the things that I did not manage to do were all excuses. And those could be of great quality, but in the end, nobody is impressed by how good our excuses are. Right? As managers, it's important to not come up with excuses, but try and figure out how to get things done. Right? It's up to us to shine light on the possibilities and the opportunities by which we can get things done and not just focus on problems. Anybody else within the company, anybody else working for us might focus on calling out the problems. It's good to listen to them. It's good to know what are the problems so that we can plan for them and we can think of ways to address them and not get blindsided by problems. So it's not a bad thing to listen to the problems, but it's not our job to bring out just the problems alone and not solutions. Okay. So that is another mindset to focus on, where we do not focus just on the problems, but we think of identifying ways to getting things done. And another thing that I also figured out while working with a lot of team members is that it is not, as a manager, not our job to just assign work or just ask somebody to get things or just do things for us. Right? In that case, we are just bossing around. The way to get people motivated, or an easiest way to get people to feel energized to do things, is asking them what I can do for you. How can I help you to do what you are trying to do? Right. So in those cases, we are not just being a bottleneck. As a bottleneck, we just have everyone pass through us, keep us updated at all times on what they are doing, how much progress they have made, and so on, wherein we just become a bottleneck in that case. Whereas the way that gets things done is by asking people, how can I help you? In those situations, we are offering ourselves as a resource and we are trying to be part of the solution for something or a problem that our team members are working on. Right. So that's where being a resource and not being a bottleneck is also helpful. And as I mentioned, it's important to develop an abundance mindset wherein we think of the possibilities, we think of solutions so that we are able to move from scarcity to abundance. So till now, we have spoken about some of the mindsets to develop. That's the first step towards making successful transitions. Next, just having right mindset is not going to be enough. It's also important to build our capabilities. Right? And that's where transitions are points where it's important to learn how to learn things quickly. And at the same time, what was also revealing to me was that it is not just important that we learn, we also learn how to teach others. I'll talk about that in a little while. The first thing to understand is that whenever we make any kind of transition, our past knowledge or whatever we have learned in the B school is all generic knowledge. Whereas every company that we work for or that we'll get into, or every industry has its own specific knowledge that is required. So if it's a software industry that we're getting into, it is not necessary for us to know every line of code or get into every specific nuances, but we need at least a broad understanding of what each technology can do, what each technology cannot do, what are situations where we should not use them, and at least at a high level, we should be able to understand the overall architecture and then algorithm of how a solution is being built, right? So that's where every industry will have its own specific needs that we need to learn. And it is important during transitions to learn them quickly so that we are able to start making an impact or start producing contributions, meaningful contributions to the company, so that we are able to justify our presence within the company, right? Else we will continue to be a drain and we are just taking up energy, but we are not able to make a positive contribution. So that's where it's important to absorb knowledge quickly. And it's important to accelerate learning, especially during transitions. At the start, it's important to identify the gap between what we know and what is required to be successful on the job, identify the delta or the gap, and then find out and dedicate time to learning and developing our skills and our knowledge on the industry and on the company specific knowledge that is required so that we are able to be successful very quickly. Next, a quick poll. Okay, so in assume you are new to a workplace and you observe a lot of practices that are probably in direct contradiction to the theories that you learned in B school. Then what do? Do you have a discussion with your manager about changing the practices? You explain the things that you have learned in B school, the theories that say why that is not to be done, and you supplement it with additional references? Or have an open mind and ask to understand the reasons or background based on which the current practices evolved and how they came to be. The other approach is check with your friends, try to understand what is the norm within the industry, are such practices the norm within the industry, and have a discussion with the manager about aligning to the industry norms. Okay. Very heartening to see a lot of you making a lot of great decisions as part of these polls. Definitely goes on to show the level of maturity that all of you have as a batch. I think a lot of your past experiences playing a role in this. Very happy to see this. Okay, so thoughts on why second option?
Because in a B school, we learn the theories and we are working in the work environment for the first time. It might be that there is something new which is applicable in practically, which I don't know. And it would be an opportunity for me also to learn from that.
Great. Yes. So that is the next point. But it is important to understand and appreciate context. So a lot of theories that we learn are probably applicable to same about 80% of the scenarios where it falls probably a kind of study or body of knowledge compiled based on there is something that is observed in same majority of the industries or something that works in majority of the situations. But if we dissociate that from the context If we do not understand the context into which it is applied, the specific context might be something that requires a totally different approach than what is generally accepted as a theory or an approach to handling something. So there will always be reasons, because companies evolve over the years. They learn, they go through a lot of growing pains, and through which they figure out ways and practices that work in their specific context. So as managers, if we just try to ignore all of it and we try to go against the grain, and then we try to do something which is probably just based on what we have learned, then without understanding the context we apply it, it can lead to a potential failure there, because it is not applicable in that specific context within that specific company. So every company, just like each of us as individuals are unique, just like that, companies are also unique. Each of them have their unique situations and context, and based on which what needs to be done in that context can differ quite widely from what is generally accepted. Right? And another thing to also learn is that we do not always have answers to all the questions. We may not be the person with the most specialist knowledge for every problem or every situation that we are trying to solve, or we trying to take it to a successful closure. In a lot of cases, we'll be working with people or a team of experts who are more knowledgeable than us. So it is not about asserting authority, wherein we try to show that we know more than them. It's not a competition of who knows more, but rather as a manager, it's our responsibility to bring the best in each of them, bring their capabilities together so that we are able to channelize that energy towards improving the outcomes for the particular company. So that's where it's important to understand that it is not always that we have the answers to every situation. It's okay to lead with questions where we ask the right questions, and then we let the experts or specialists who know the specifics, who have the specific knowledge, who are able to provide solutions which will probably be better than what we might come up with based on our limited knowledge in that specific industry or in that specific situation. So that's where it is okay, it is totally all right to lead with questions, to develop a curious mindset and ask questions, ask others what is the best way to do it, and then involve them in the process and get a better solution that will probably be better than what we would do if what it would be if we just did it ourselves all alone. The next part is also, in addition to learning, it's also important to learn how to teach others. It is important to share the knowledge, because our success as managers is dependent on the success of others. And it is important for others to succeed that we help them with additional knowledge or additional training or additional knowledge that we are able to impart to them, so that we help them grow. And when they grow, when they are able to do better, our outcomes would proportionately get better, that we are able to get from our team members. So that's where it is not just important to learn how to learn for ourselves, but it is also important to learn how to teach. May not be the best thing, or it may not be something that all of us might be proficient in, but it is another skill to develop, because that way the team members also start developing a bond, that the manager is taking an active interest in helping me learn and helping me grow. So in those cases, they'll be even more willing to contribute to the cause or contribute towards the goals that we are trying to achieve and contribute within the team. So that's where it's important to and also learn how to teach others and impart knowledge or share our knowledge with others. So the next part is preparation. What also changes when we take on managerial role is that we are on stage 24/7. It is not just specific instances just at the formal setting in the formal workplace. We are a manager. No, we are a manager in all situations, in all contexts, right? So if we are unprepared in any situation, whatever we speak, everything that we speak, people try to form an opinion or form a judgment on what we do or what we bring to the table based on things that we speak. So if we do not know something, it's okay to acknowledge or understand and call it out that we do not know something, and then not try to get into just winging the options as we go. And almost every interaction opportunity is a situation where we are assessed and we are evaluated constantly. It is not just a 6-monthly cycle or a yearly cycle where an evaluation happens. Every act that we do, everything that we do, we are always on stage and we are being evaluated. Every interaction opportunity, what we say, what we do, how we conduct ourselves, all of it is actually assessed. So another small scenario for all of you. So assume you are on an official visit to the company's headquarters, and one of the senior managers at the headquarters invites you to lunch along with his key managers at the headquarters. So, but unfortunately, you also have some personal plans. You were planning to meet a long-time friend whom you haven't met in a long time. So it's just lunch that you're being invited to. So what do you do in that situation? So the first option says if you have other personal plans, then your personal plans take precedence because it's personal time. Lunch time is your personal time. So you skip the team lunch. The second one is you prioritize the team lunch and use this opportunity to interact with key managers at the headquarters over lunch and you reschedule your personal plan. The third one is join the team lunch, but just you're joining for the purpose of a formality and you quickly excuse yourself and then you join your friend for an elaborate lunch. Okay, great. Thoughts? Why second option?
So to me, first was never an option, but then among second and third, it is really about the context in which the visit is happening. So since it is an official visit, one should definitely reschedule your personal plan because it is supposed to be an interactive session with the HQ team members. And I mean, just joining it for a quick bite won't really suffice the intent behind the official visit. So that's why.
Great.
If it is easy to reschedule the personal visit, maybe we can do dinner or breakfast the next day. But this is once in a lifetime opportunity, at least when you are in a visit to the headquarters.
Great.
Sir, I would like to add to this, if that's fine.
Definitely.
Sir,
Yes.
that's definitely, sir, the second option is a clear-cut winner here because, sir, what exactly happens is that we should be, completely committed towards our work. We should not be like we are going there and here, like our personal commitment and here as well. We should show our 100% dedication. At the same time, we should also ensure that, once we are as work as a more priority, we are actually it's a bread and butter. So we should give up 100%, even if it requires to sacrifice the personal commitments, which is understandable.
Okay, great. So that was my next point. So even though some of these might feel like informal or casual meetings, none of them are. Those are essentially still business meetings, just that they're happening at a different setting. It is just that happening over lunch. And maybe they are setting it up because they could always go for lunch as their team at any point in time. But the reason they're probably setting it up as a team lunch along with their key managers and inviting you to it is probably to get you an opportunity to get to know them and maybe bond with them, because in future if you have to work together with them, you have already developed a bond or a connect with them, so you are able to work better with them. So they are investing or they are inviting you there for such purposes. So it's not a casual thing to take as something an optional and it's your personal time, so you're excusing yourself. It is still a business meeting, just that it is happening over a different context or in a different, slightly different, maybe a bit relaxed setting, but it is again being done in order to help you succeed in your future assignments by increasing your, say, familiarity with other key managers, through which we could get a lot more things accomplished with whom you might be working with in the future, right? And along the same lines, there are no off the record conversations. That is just gossip, where it is not productive and it is not right as managers to engage in gossip. At all points, as we said, we are representing the company 24/7. It's not just at work hours, but at all times. We cannot make offhand comments which are not considered professional in any setting or any context. We are on the job 24/7. So the next part of building our capabilities is to bring something unique to the table. So each of us might have a specific set of skills which will probably stand out and will complement the rest of the skills that are available within the company that we are working for. It could be a strategy part wherein we are able to come up with better ideas, or we are able to envision better solutions. Some of us might be good with execution, wherein somebody has the great idea, but how do you ensure you are able to get to the nuts and bolts, organize everything, be on top of every step of the execution, and ensure that the execution part is a success? Because without execution, strategy is just an idea, right? Or we could be bringing in people skills, wherein we are able to very good with people, and we are able to work with a lot of people, bring people together, and channelize them or energize them towards shared goals. It could be any of these, but it's important to identify what it is that we are able to fill or complement along with other skills within the company, and then bring that to the table. And at the same time, it's also important to keep up the brand promise. What's your understanding of the brand promise? What is your personal brand promise in that case?
Something that is unique you bring on the table. Like you said, for example, people skills. How good you are with other people, bringing, for example, when working with the cross-functional team, how you are able to channelize and bring bridging the gap between your team and the cross-functional team. How good you are.
Okay. Any other understanding of a brand promise?
So I think it reflects on the previous concept that you said, that nobody likes the excuses. So once you promise what you're known for and what you're capable of delivering, you should do it always. So
okay.
So there will be some perception built around oneself, and if the meeting is going to take place for the first time, then that senior, the director level or manager level person will expect you to match the perception he has about you. So that is what the brand promise.
Great, very close. Yes. So brand promise is nothing but a consistent experience that you are able to offer. The simplest example that I can think of is, say, if you're going to Starbucks, you're probably going there for the experience and you expect a consistent experience. You'll probably be greeted, you'll have a good experience. People are trained there well enough to serve you in a very nice way, and then offer you that great experience. And it is almost consistent irrespective of which store you walk into. Same maybe with a McDonald's, wherein the experience that you have with McDonald's, irrespective of which outlet that you're going into, will be similar. So it's more about being able to have consistency in what we bring to the table. If we are good at something, ensure that we are able to bring what we bring to the table every time, in every situation, so that we become dependable. As some of you mentioned, as I think Sarveshkar mentioned, once people are counting on you for certain skills or certain capabilities that you bring to the table, they'll bring you into future engagements, assuming that you're going to continue to be able to bring that again to that same project or that new situation or problem that they are involving you in. You're being brought there for that capability that you possess. So it's important to ensure it's not just one-off where we exhibit excellence in a certain area or a certain skill, but something that we are able to consistently, repeatedly, year over year, day over day, we are able to bring to the table consistently and add value there. So that's about the personal brand. Next, we move on to the last segment about actions. So then one of the things about transitioning to a managerial role is that it's tempting to overcomplicate things, right? Because we associate say complexity with a clever solution. Whereas for us to be leaders, it is important that people follow what we ask others to do, or people follow us. So the simpler it is, the chances of it being adhered to or that being followed, the odds increases dramatically. Say, for example, if we bring in a very complex process that is very difficult or tedious to follow, chances are they'll probably do it 1 or 2 times, and then people will drop it. Whereas if we are bringing in a process improvement and it is quite simple for everybody to follow, it will get followed or adopted consistently. And that's when the change that you bring in is going to stick. Right? So it's always, in a way, it is easier to bring in complex solutions. Whereas if you have to simplify it and make it easier for people to follow, that requires additional thoughts. So that's where we as managers, it's also our job to devise simpler solutions, think simple, and then make it simpler, make it almost a no-brainer for others to follow. So that what changes we bring in are able to stick around, because we bring in a change and then if it gets undone in a few months time, then there is no output or effect of or benefits of bringing in that change. By some time it would have reverted back to its original status quo, and then we would not have brought in any value there. So for changes to stick, it's important to make things simpler and easier so that it'll be consistently followed. Okay, another last one poll for all of you. So assume you have set up a team meeting on behalf of your manager, and say it's scheduled for tomorrow, 3 to 4. And then you have scheduled it about a week ago, and you have probably done a lot of preparation for the smooth conduct of that meeting. You're probably owning some of the portions or segments of that meeting. But suddenly your skip level manager, say your manager 2 or 3 levels above, invites you and your batch of people who have joined that year for a meeting from say 3:30 to 4:30. And it's going to happen tomorrow. You are getting notified or invited today. So then what do you do? So first option says your team comes first and it was scheduled in advance. It has precedence. So you complete the team meeting and then you join your skip level manager's meeting at 4 o'clock. Next option, the skip level manager comes first. So you update your manager, make alternate arrangements for the parts that you are responsible for in that meeting. And then you excuse yourself and join your skip level manager's meeting on time. The third option is request your manager to move your meeting around. The fourth option is request your skip level manager to reschedule the meeting that he has set up because it has been set up at a short notice. Okay, interesting set of responses. Thoughts?
So this is more about professional etiquettes, I would say, rather than hierarchy.
Okay.
So since both of them are managers, and we can straight away go and talk to them that this was something that was scheduled long back, and just from etiquette's perspective, we can request him to move sometime later, the skip managers one. So I opted for last one, both.
Okay. Okay. Others, reasons for other options?
Maybe if I don't go to that meeting, my manager will also be in that trouble.
Okay, honest answer.
So it's easy to reschedule our meeting. So it happens.
Okay. So which option did you choose?
When I chose request my manager to reschedule.
Okay.
Third one.
Third option. Okay.
Possibly the skip level manager might be way busier than your manager, right? So I would say that that is also a factor to consider here, and look at, like, hierarchy does play a role. We cannot ignore it just because it is not, like, that's the reality that we'll have to deal with.
Okay.
And I would say that go with the skip level manager, like the second option. I chose the second option because I have to excuse myself, whereas my team's meeting does not suffer overall. You're respecting both cases.
Great.
Sir, I also went with option number 2. The reason is that, sir, skip level manager meeting definitely comes at a very big priority, because if in case skip level manager meeting is screwed up, is not attended, definitely it will cascade down to my team and my manager who would like it. If it's possible, I guess it's now the need of the hour for the managers to manage things out. We can always request the team to give our insights and get the thing done by 3:25, probably not the minutes of the meeting, and then switch to the next meeting, which is more important, and basically manage it more efficiently. So I said went to second option.
Great. Okay. So again, no right or wrong answers, but personally, I would first try for option 1, and if not, option 2, and if not, I would go for the third option. So that is my personal approach or my take on handling these situations. As Piyush rightly mentioned, so in a lot of cases, your skip level manager, they have a lot more things on their plate. And if they have set up a meeting at a short notice, it is quite likely due to something urgent or important that needs to get done. And it is a cross team meeting. Understand that it's with your batchmates who are also working in different teams, right? So if you have to try and find a time slot which is going to work for everybody else working across all the teams, then in that case, it's a bigger logistical challenge than to just align the timings within a single team. Right? So that's why I would probably personally go with the second option, where I prioritize this, and at the same time, I'm not dropping things off from my plate. I'm not leaving things out, but I'm making sure those are also happening. But on time, I'm also available for the skip level meeting. So that is how I would go about it. So this approach has kind of helped me, where I prioritize timings in this sequence. Customers' timings first, then your managers or those above, and then the timings of our peers who are also in similar positions, and then the timings of the team, and finally self-time. So when I follow this hierarchy, at least personally, I prefer to follow this. Okay. So that's on prioritizing in case there are conflicts. The last segment is extending help. So as managers, there is a lot of interdependence rather than independence. So in almost every day, a lot of things that I have to get done or I'll have to get done is dependent on ensuring that others take up some part of it, even though they are not in the direct line of reporting. So it is important to help others in the organization succeed, because eventually very quickly, we will be looking at situations where they will have to help us. So if we do not help others succeed, they are not going to help us succeed. Where we need their help in order to succeed, it is not going to happen. So it's always about everybody is working towards the success of the organization. So in every possible way, if people reach out to us for help, it's important to ensure that we help them and we help the organization succeed. Only then when we take up some initiative that requires their participation, again, that is also going to happen. But when we try to help others, the lesson that I learned probably a bit of a hard way is it cannot come at the cost of missing on our primary responsibilities. So it is always our primary responsibilities plus the help that is required for others. It is not one or the other. It is always ensuring that our responsibilities that we have taken up are completed and then help others. And something that I have always experienced is try and make it pleasant for others to help us. If we are seeking somebody's help, it's probably a good idea to meet them at their convenience when they are available, rather than trying to ask them to meet at our convenience. Make it easier for others to help us. And another thing that I've also realized is seeking help is not a sign of weakness. We need courage, we need confidence to ask for help at the right time, because we cannot do everything by ourselves. So acknowledging that fact, understanding that we have our limitations and we need others' help, that's the first step. And thereafter, we can confidently seek others' help in order to come take things to closure. And when others help, it is always a great thing to extend praise, recognize their contributions, not brand them as just our success, but whoever has contributed, call them out and recognize their contributions. When say your managers or your supervisors, when they praise you for getting those accomplishments, call out the part that others played in that accomplishment, so that we are able to represent the information in the right context. It is not just ours, others have also contributed. And that motivates others to help, again, continue to help us in the future. So with that, I would like to thank all of you for giving me the opportunity. Thanks a lot to Shweta, thanks to Gurmati sir, thanks to Kanagraj sir for thinking of me as somebody to invite. And I would like to thank Shweta for all the coordination, a lot of work that he has done in order to make sure that today's session goes smoothly. He's been in constant touch and he has been providing a lot of necessary information, necessary guidance and support in making it happen. So from the bottom of my heart, I thank him and everybody who gave me the opportunity, who made this session possible. And from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank all of you for taking the time to, from your busy schedules. I know I've been on the other side, taking the time to free up your calendar and attend and participate in today's discussion and today's session. Thank you so much, everyone. With that, I'm now open to taking up any questions from any of you.
So thank you very much, sir, for that insightful session, and that really helped us, to get a decision-making things and able to, work better in the workplace. I would like to hand over to Charulata for coordinating for the questions, and thank you, sir.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you, sir, for your insightful session. Now the floor is open for all the questions. Please raise your hand and we will be taking it sequentially. So the first question is from Sarvesh. Please go ahead.
When I read that skip level manager and manager question, I had one incident in my mind. And the thing is, I got stuck between my manager and my manager's manager. And he started to give me some work and my manager gave me some work. And I just got, shuffled between these two people. I like how to approach such situations diplomatically.
Okay, so I almost deal with this on a daily basis. So the way that I have found it to be helpful is inform our manager about everything that we are being asked to do by our skip level manager, right? And then keep our manager updated. Okay, this has come in with this deadline. I'm working on this as well. Keep our manager updated at all times, and then work with the manager to adjust any priorities. So if in those cases, if something that has come from our skip level manager is of a higher priority, then we openly discuss with the manager so that we can figure out if something that the manager asks that we are working on is probably going to get delayed. Make sure both of us are in agreement, figure things out, or in some cases, just having that open conversation helps in maybe manager trying to identify somebody else who can probably help us with something that we were supposed to do, if it is something time bound or time critical. So always we do provide updates to both, and I provide common updates to both the manager and the skip level manager, so that both are on the same page on what is it that I am doing within the day, and it is clear that I have all of these things on my plate. So that way they also know what more to add and maybe what to prioritize, deprioritize, or bring in additional help, or maybe offload a few things if something of a higher priority needs to get done. So that is an approach that I have found to be helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Priyanka, you can go ahead now.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. for this wonderful session. So, sir, you have spent quite some time at the Mac software. So, for us MBA students, what are the future career opportunities here in this company?
Okay, so we typically hire for associate technical project managers and technical project manager roles from B schools for our company. So that is the opportunity wherein the job responsibilities or job role is more of managing a software development team and ensuring the project delivery of it. So it involves working in a number of cases either directly with the customer or with the customers, stakeholders, and then planning the project all the way from getting involved in, say, architectural discussions to planning to estimations to everything, and then overall ensuring the delivery of the project. In addition, it also provides opportunities to ensuring along with just the process compliance, also process improvements, not just within the teams, but across the organization. So those opportunities are part of the role. In addition, we also contribute as ATPMs and TPMs towards the business development and growth. We also plan for the overall skill development, upskilling and cross-skilling of the team so that we are able to build the team's capability to take on future work, or we are able to deliver better. So that responsibility is also with this role. In addition, also planning for overall career growth of the team members, identifying a career path, identifying what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are the areas that they could groom themselves, help them grow in certain areas. Somebody might be very good at technical, so carving out a path that is probably more technical. Somebody is probably better at managing others or helping others or guiding others, helping them grow in, say, people managerial skills and help them grow into the lead and manager roles. So all of these responsibilities are part of the project managerial positions that we hire for.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Shweta, you can go next.
Thank you, Charulata. Sir, my question is in regard with the digital thing which is happening around. I mean, in last 2-3 years, I've seen many people moving towards digital. So my question is, like, for an MBA graduate, till what extent digital should be, I mean, part of our life if we have any plans to pursue career in IT or anything?
So definitely a lot of movement or a lot of emphasis is on digital technologies, especially with the way the current pandemic and with a lot of things. A lot of companies are moving digital, I think even companies that were not. So a lot of opportunities come up in this digital space. So at least having an understanding of it, understanding some of the technologies in the digital space, understanding at least some of the possibilities or solutions that exist in the space is definitely helpful. As I said, as managers, we'll probably not be doing hands-on work on those, but it is important at least to have a high-level understanding or an idea of what is possible, what is not possible, what are the limitations, what would work in certain situations, applying the right ones in the right context, making those decisions, at least being able to make those decisions or ask those right questions, as I said, leading with questions. In order to ask the right questions, we should at least have some basic understanding of all of those. We have at that level, that should be good enough.
Thank you, sir. That will really help.
Okay, sir, I have one question. You
all
have
of you can
successfully
call me Ram.
yeah, yeah, Ram. So you have successfully transit from a developer to a leader. So I wanted to know what were the challenges you have faced from moving from a technical role to a managerial role, and what are the qualities we need to integrate in ourselves while transitioning?
Okay, so can't speak for all of you, but at least in my view, I have kept an open mind. And the way I have approached opportunities is always opportunities to problem solve and add value. So I have moved not just from, say, a developer role to the current role that I'm in, but in between I had gone into project management and all of it, and then transitioned to a manager who's going to lead the learning and development initiatives and the sales part and all of it. So as I said, I kept an open mind and I did not restrict myself to opportunities or activities that came my way. I had an interest in trying to learn new things and trying my hand at multiple things. So then along the way, there were additional things, additional fit that they were able to identify and move more of those my way. And then I've kind of made these transitions. So essentially it's at least what has worked in my case is keeping an open mindset, a learning mindset, and just approaching any assignment as an opportunity to make a difference and produce results rather than and taking it on as a challenge. It's more of a problem solving role than just focusing on getting stuck to saying, I want to do only this, I want to do only that. So that is something that has helped me.
Thank you, sir. Adding to that question, what are the qualities MAQ are looking while hiring in a candidate, an MBA candidate?
Okay, so essentially we are looking at practicing managers, people who have an ability to learn new things, because in a technology oriented industry, things keep changing. The technologies that we were using for project delivery, say even 5 years ago, are quite different from the ones that we use today. So we are looking for people who can adapt and who can learn new things quickly. And those who are not afraid to get their hands dirty in understanding the depth. We do not look for hands-off managers who would probably just superficially manage teams, but are able to work closely with the team members, help and guide them, take an active interest in what they're doing, and being able to help them grow as well. So those are some of the things that we look for. Mainly, we look at a learning mindset and a past record of growth in your past career, being able to grow within your past career. That is also one more positive indicator that we look at. And progressively additional responsibilities. If somebody is able to do that, that is one more thing that we look at.
Thank you, sir. There's one question from Nikita. You can go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Hi, Ram. Thank you for the session. So I have one question here regarding the pandemic scenario. We had a quite hybrid mode of working wherein some people were working from home, some from office. So for a manager, how easy or difficult you can say it is for managing a team remotely? That is my question.
Well, it is again a mix of challenge and opportunities. It is a bit challenging because we do not have complete, say, visibility into almost everything that the team member does. But at the same time, that's where our ability to again handle or problem solve the situation comes in, wherein the ability to maybe bring in additional brief sync ups or quick status updates, bring in mechanisms where people can share information or blockers that they are running into, or all of those, bringing in those mechanisms or bringing in those systems in place, building those systems in place so that people can share and reduce the difficulties that come with being remote. Those are the opportunities that have also been available to manage to pivot to the remote or the hybrid model. So it has been both a challenge as well as an opportunity to problem solve.
Thank you, sir. Since we are done with the time, if it's okay with you, we can take another question.
Definitely.
Utkarsh, do you have any question?
Certainly. Thanks a lot, sir, for the time and for all the answers. So my question precisely is, sir, that you have worked in business strategy and you have also worked as a project manager, okay, in Mac. I just want to ask one thing, sir, like on those lines, how do you, sir, envision and how would you like to help us understand that first of all, conflict management type of how exactly in such situation of conflict management should we proceed towards going ahead with the strategy of managing conflict and ensuring that our company and our project does not impacted and the business continues good.
Okay, so quite interesting. The first step, at least in my experience, has been to not discourage conflicts from occurring. As long as conflicts are productive, as long as they are oriented towards the task that people are doing and are oriented towards bringing in an improvement, as long as it is not a personal conflict where just somebody chooses to oppose everything that somebody else is saying or somebody else is doing, as long as it is not that, as long as it is work related or productive conflict, it's important to create an environment where it is not suppressed, where there is an opportunity to bring it out. And going hand in hand with that is also about creating a safe environment. where it is safe for people to express what they are conflicted about, what they have in their mind. At the same time, also make it safe for others whose point of view is being opposed, so that they do not feel personally attacked, but rather it is in the best interest. So creating that environment where conflict is first not suppressed, there is an opportunity to bring it out, and then creating an environment of safety so that people feel confident enough to bring the conflicts into the open. I think both of these have been quite helpful in my view.
Thank you very much, sir. That is quite
Thank you.
explaining answer. Thank you.
Hello, sir. So we have been talking a lot about the unlearning piece recently, and I think you also moved from a already working environment then to a student life and then back to the working environment. So I mean, how much difficult was it, and what were the real challenges from the unlearning piece?
I personally do not subscribe to the way of unlearning something. So we are just learning more on top of what we already know. We are expanding the scope of our knowledge. So that's the way I've been taking it, where maybe I'm learning about something new. So now this adds more context, or this is a maybe body of knowledge that is probably, or body of experience that is probably getting me to know more that I did not know previously about. So things that we learn lay the foundation. Those, as I said, may be applicable in 70 to 80% of the context. And then the additional ones that we learn bring in our knowledge level to handle those exceptions. So managing the norm is probably easier. Managing the exceptions are the difficult ones. So it's more about trying to know how to handle these 20%. Handling the 80% is the easy part. Handling that 20% of the exceptions, that is the part where I take that as an additional learning opportunity.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are done with the questions. Let me go ahead and give you a vote of thanks. On behalf of the whole cohort, I would like to thank you for sparing some time from your busy schedule and sharing your insight with us. It was truly an amazing session, and we definitely have observed the knowledge shared by you and are going to definitely apply to them in our field. Thank you.
Thank you so much once again for the opportunity to invite me here, and thanks for inviting me. Thanks a lot for taking the time to take time off your busy schedule and attend this session. And it was really great to see the level of participation, the level of questions, the maturity with which you chose the options. All of it was really great. So thank you so much. And I'm sure all of you will be immensely successful. I wish you all the very best. And I hope to cross paths in the future with all of you. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much, sir, for the session, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
No, sir.
Thank you,
Call
sir.
me Ram. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Ram.
Thank you.